Well, when I got the mail, there was like a envelope in there with his name on it.
All right.
Okay, now we're going. But what did you do?
I knocked on the door and he answered it.
Yeah, and then what?
I gave it to him and then I left.
Come on now. You just heard screaming over there.
You're making this hard on us and yourself.
Be honest. You went inside, didn't you?
Hello, everyone, and welcome on back into the Barracks. Today, we're finally talking about a case that I have been wanting to discuss for a very long time. I do want to address first why I have been absent a little bit, at least on my YouTube, just video uploads. When I got back from my vacation in the middle of August, I was going through some things at work, so I didn't have time to sit down and record. And then on October 24th, my guinea pig Winston shockingly passed away, which is why I just didn't have the energy or the mental capacity to do a recording, but it has been a little bit since that has happened, and I've processed it, and things are starting to just calm down a little bit, and I'm feeling a little bit better to finally get back to just recording videos. And today I want to talk about this case. If you saw from the beginning clip, we are talking about a case that just broke my heart the minute I saw the documentary on Netflix. We were talking about Brendan Dassey from Making a Murderer. Now, I am not going to discuss Stephen Avery, as I don't believe he is completely innocent, but Brandon, on the other hand, I do. So basically, if you don't know this case, what happened is that Teresa Halbach was doing a photo shoot of a car at Stephen Avery's car lot, but she never actually left his property. There has been a lot of different theories as to what exactly happened, but she was reported missing by her family, and her skeletal remains were found burned and buried behind Stephen's home, along with her car abandoned in his car lot. Those are the facts. And Stephen Avery has been found guilty for the murder of Teresa. So, how is his nephew Brendan involved? Well, he was a witness to start and provided police a witness statement. So let's go ahead and go over these statements. So, I have pulled up an article that happens to have a timeline of events of when he was interviewed by police. The first one, this is January 26th. This was from Kayla Avery, his cousin, and Stephen Avery's niece. They interviewed her. At Dassey's trial, Brent testified that while finishing her master's degree in counseling education at the University of Wisconsin-Pennsylvania, Platteville, she did a counseling internship at high school. Brant says Kayla came to the counseling office saying she was scared because Avery had asked one of her cousins to help move a body. She also said she was scared going to shop class and wanted to know whether blood could come up through concrete. Brant testified that Kayla appeared scared but not confused. So fast forward to February. Dassey is interviewed by the lead prosecution investigators in Halbach's murder, Mark Wittert and Tom Fassbender, at his high school. I'm not going to try to pronounce that high school name. It's just not that one. The investigators began by telling Dassey he is not under arrest and he can leave anytime. They want to hear what is bothering him. He responds saying what bothers him is Avery is gone. in jail after his arrest. But then they start presenting facts when asking about the Halloween 2005 bonfire. They say they know he was at the fire and that they believe that's where Halbot was cooked. They asked if he saw bones in the fire. He says no. They gradually indicate he could face charges, but they believe Avery was the perpetrator. Fassbender, I promise I will not let you. I will not let you high and dry. I'll stand behind you. We both will, Dassey. We're here to help you. The investigators asked Dassey to write a statement. Then they read it back to him. He writes that he saw Halbot's car outside Avery's trailer at 3:45 p.m. when he got home from school. Got a call from Avery sometime after 8 p.m. to come over for a bonfire and saw toes in the bonfire. Avery told him not to tell anyone about it. Avery told him he stabbed her in the stomach outside of his trailer and put the knife in her car. The investigators read back to Dassey part of what he wrote in the statement, including that Avery told him he tied up Halbot with rope and stabbed her in the car, and that he saw fingers and forehead in the fire, and Avery threatened him a little bit, and that he saw Avery put a blue shirt with blood on it and pants in the fire, and that Avery told him they were Halbot's. The investigators asked Dassey if he wants to go home. He said he would rather go to Earth Science class. They say okay, and goes to class at 2:15 p.m. They call Dassey's mother, Barb Janda, and she comes to school. At 3 p.m., Dassey and Janda agreed to go to Two Rivers Police Department for a videotaped interview. They agree he'll be in an interview room alone. Janda says that it was not necessary for her to be in the interview room. Dassey says he doesn't care. So, this is where it all started. This is his first initial statement. He says he saw some toes. He says he saw Avery telling him, Stephen Avery telling him that he threw a bunch of stuff that was hers, where he put the knife, how he killed her. And this is his original statement. This is it. And it just gets a bit wilder after this. After his first initial statement. So, the police wanted more, and he brought him back for questioning, this time at the station. Now take note, taking a very important note and fact about Brendan. So according to his academics and advisors, he has a low intelligence. He is in special education classes, he is slow, and not quite socially attuned. And he's a minor. So, at 16 years old, or 17, the officers read him his Miranda rights, and he waives them. This means he won't have his mother present, or an attorney. A 16-year-old mentally challenged is about to be questioned by police. This definitely won't go right. So this is the interview that he does on March, where he waived his Miranda rights. His mother said it was okay for him to be by himself, which I think is the biggest regret that she probably has. And no lawyers present. They don't get him a public defender, nothing. They thought that it was just I think his mother thought that it was just going to be the same thing that they'd already questioned him at, just in front of a camera, or recorded on camera at the station. And it'd be the same thing that he told them, right? He saw toes, he saw various body parts. He saw Avery throw her stuff in the fire to be burned alongside of it. This is what he thought, or maybe what she thought, he was going to explain to the police, but just in a more official capacity. So this is the March 1st, 2006. Fassbender says they want to connect more of the dots, and that he and Woodard feel maybe Dassey knows more. Mark and I are both in your corner. We're on your side. Woodard says that they can't make any promises but will stand by Dassey. It's best if he tells the whole story. You know, honestly, is the only thing, honesty is the only thing that will set you free, right? Fassbender asks what happened to Hallbot's purse, cell phone, camera. Dassey says no to seeing any of those, and no, Avery didn't tell him what he did with those. He burnt them. What did you see? Like a cell phone? A camera? A purse? Are you being honest with us? Did you actually see those items? Like a cell phone, camera, purse? Are you being honest? Did you actually see those items? Yeah. As the investigators attempt to go to the sequence of events, they repeatedly tell Dassey they already know what happened. They just needed to hear it from him. Dassey contradicts his own story a number of times. First, he says he took a piece of mail to Avery's door and left, but then he says Avery invited him inside and he saw Hallbot in Avery's room. He says Hallbot was naked, handcuffed, by hands and feet to Avery's bed, screaming for help. Says Avery asked him if he wanted to have sex with Hallbot. Now I can start believing you. Okay? Dassey says he has intercourse with Hallbot against her will. Then Avery stabs her once, chokes her till she goes unconscious. The investigators press him more. We know you guys did something else. He says Avery made him slit her throat with a knife after Avery had stabbed her in the stomach. They press more. What else happened to her in the head? It's extremely, extremely important you tell us this for us to believe you. Come on, Dassey. What else? We know, we just need you to tell us. That's all I can remember. All right, I'm just going to come out and ask you, who shot her in the head? He did. Then why didn't you tell us? 'Cause I couldn't think of it. There's a reason why he couldn't think of it. Because they asked him the question, who shot her in the head? He's saying now he did, to get them off his back. Right? He's scared. He's a minor. He has nobody in his corner with him in that interview room. And he has two very skilled detectives questioning him and feeding him information. He might not have known that she was shot in the head. He might not have known any of that. Because all he gave them in the first statement was that he saw some toes and he saw some body parts in the fire. And that Avery told them that he stabbed her in the stomach. So how did we go from... So he knew about that part. But how would he have known about the intercourse part? Maybe he they again, these were some of the things that they were feeding him. They were feeding him a scenario, and they were trying to get him to say, you gotta be honest with us. You have to tell us. We already know what happened. We gotta know from you. It's awful. It's awful.
Yeah.
What kind of words is he using, though? You can say those words here.
That you wanted to fuck her so hard.
Could you see her at this time?
No.
Okay. What happens next? Remember, we already know, but we need to hear it from you. It's okay. It's not your fault. What happens next?
Does he ask you?
He does, doesn't he?
We know.
He asks you, doesn't he? What does he ask you?
Said if I wanted a girlfriend.
Tell us how he said it.
That if he wanted me to get some pussy.
There. Okay.
And then what happens next?
It's over.
Okay.
Are her legs spread apart? Or are they together? Or tell us how it looks.
Like, spread apart a little bit.
So he brings you back there and he shows you her. And what do? Honestly. Because we think
Very important.
we know what
Have to be
happened.
truthful.
We know what happened. It's okay. What did you do?
I ain't doing nothing.
Brendan? Brendan? Come on. What did you do?
What does Stephen make you do?
He told me to do.
What does that mean to you?
To screw her.
Did you do that?
All right, take a breath, Brad. Take it all. Did he watch?
It's okay.
That's
Okay. Okay. Where is Steve at this time?
Oh.
Why? Where's her clothes at this time? So how'd they get out?
Clean up the 950.
Did you notice during the interview that he looked down a lot? He doesn't make any eye contact. His body language just screams that he is scared. Now, there is a special interrogation method that these officers are using on a minor that is mentally challenged. So, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the Reid technique. So, this was the technique that these very two seasoned officers were using on a mentally challenged minor. The Reid technique. The interrogation of Brendan Dassey was potentially problematic for several reasons that will be addressed. Dassey was a minor, only 16 years old, when he confessed his role in the murder of Teresa Halbach in Manawa County Police Department. I don't know if I said that right. In addition to his young age, Dassey has a history of mental disabilities, as I stated. Dassey's youth and his mental impairments inform the arguably unlikely content of Dassey's confession and help to explain the impact that the thoughtful and deliberate police interrogation techniques had on him. So, let's go ahead and get to what the Reid technique is. A step-by-step analysis of this technique. The positive confrontation. During March 1st and May 13th interviews, there is another interview, but we'll get to that one in a second. The police affirmatively tell Dassey that they know what happened and that they just need Brendan to help match his story up to the timeline. These are well-executed Reid techniques, positive confrontations, brief and unequivocal. The possibility that Dassey may not have been involved in Teresa Halbach's murder is never acknowledged. Theme development. In an attempt to provide some sort of moral justification for Dassey's confessed participation in the rape and murder of Teresa Halbach, not only did they make him confess to the murder of Teresa, which he may not even been involved in, as he said in the first statement that he gave them, he also confessed to rape. Officer Bridger says, let's be honest here, Brendan. If you helped Stephen, it's okay, because he was telling you to do it. You didn't do it on your own. This is a lie. In addition to attempting to make Dassey feel like he is doing the upstanding thing here, the police continually emphasize the importance of honesty. They tell Dassey that if he is honest, they will do their best to stand behind him. The police question Dassey in terms of this theme throughout the remainder of his questioning. They return to the idea that Stephen Avery told Dassey to rape and kill Teresa Halbach in order to make Dassey respond more cooperatively. Standing behind him. Handling denials. Brendan does not make many spirited denials over the course of the interrogations. Whenever he does respond negatively to the officers' questions, the officers quickly get him back on track with the theme and the positive confrontation, making any further denials seem futile. overcoming objections. At no point do the investigators argue with Dassey about his statements. When Dassey gives an answer that the investigators are not happy with, they simply return to the theme, emphasizing that Dassey must be honest and that the whole situation is really Stephen's fault. Procurement and retention of suspect detention. Following the objection stage, the suspect often becomes pensive, withdrawn, and quiet. While Dassey does indeed become withdrawn and quiet, the investigators simply stay on theme and do not mention the potential punishment for the crime that Dassey is admitting to. Never once did they say it. Handling the suspect's passive mood. Again, as Dassey is frequently passive throughout the questioning, the officers do continue to relay to him the importance of honesty and the real culpability of Stephen, not Dassey. He thinks he's giving them what they want to hear, but he doesn't understand and or know that he is actually confessing to helping him murder, and also he just confessed to raping her. Having the suspect orally relate various details of the offense. Throughout the interrogation, the police officers have Dassey relate many details of the offense, and they gave him a lot of the details too, that he may never have known of. Converting an oral confession to a written confession, the police were able eventually to get Brendan to make a written confession. This is a problem. They did all of this to get what they want out of him, and to also make it a bit more of a timeline for the prosecution to use on Stephen Avery as well. So, he confessed. Now what? He's on trial for murder. And now, his lawyer should get his confession thrown out. But this public defender wasn't really trying as hard as he should for his client. I'm not saying that public defenders suck, but he sure wasn't attentive to his client being sentenced for murder at 16 to 17 years old. He wasn't returning his calls to him, or his mother. He tried to coerce him into a bad plea deal, and he wasn't even present for another questioning while Brendan was in custody. Let's just go ahead and play the clip, shall we?
Start over.
So Kaczynski steered Dassey to cut a plea deal. He even set up another interview with his client and the police.
You and Steve had this planned? Yeah? Yes or no?
Now, they're doing it again. The investigator is doing the same tactic, the same technique that we just read about. He's doing it again to Dassey. And his lawyer isn't there.
An interview Kaczynski actually skipped because he says he had Army Reserve duty.
How on earth could you opt out of that?
With 20/20 hindsight, yeah, it was a mistake.
For his failure
No,
to attend
really?
that meeting,
Okay, why'd you sign that?
the judge removed Kaczynski from Dassey's case.
Do you have a clear conscience?
Yes, I do. Well, I did what I thought was in Dassey's best interest. I don't think, though, those mistakes had any impact at all on the verdict in Dassey's case.
Several months later,
Oh no, they sure did. They had a huge impact, because now you gave them another confession that he did it again. And you tried to cut him a plea deal, and you weren't even there for the second interview. You made the decision, you fucked it up. And did he get rightfully removed from the case? Yes. But it was already too late. It was already too late. Why was it already too late? Because they couldn't get that confession thrown out. The motion was ultimately denied by the judge. So, what did the judge say when his public defender did actually file a motion? Well, let's scroll down to where we can see the judge's ruling on the initial motion from the public defender. Judge's ruling on Len's motion to suppress confession statements as evidence. The defendant, Brendan Dassey, was at the time police interviews a student. in high school, enrolled in mostly regular classes, but also in some special education classes. Testing had disclosed an IQ level in the low average to borderline range. There is no evidence that he suffered from any emotional disorder which made him unusually susceptible or vulnerable to police pressures. I beg to differ. Nothing on the videotape visually depicts Brendan Dassey as being frightened or intimidated by the questions of either investigator. I beg to differ on that one, for damn sure. On occasion, the interviewers purported to know details which in fact were not true. The court finds that this tactic is misleading. Brendan Dassey was neither improper nor coercive because it did not interfere with Brendan Dassey's power to make rational choices. In short, the statements made by Brendan Dassey to investigators were voluntary statements. The defendant's motion to suppress these statements is denied. So, there it is. But my question for this whole entire ruling is that why wasn't there more testing? Why is him not fully understanding what happened okay? And why, more importantly, in my honest opinion, is a minor able to waive his Miranda rights? I'm sorry, but this should never be a thing. More importantly, his inconsistent statement and constant changing of said events never lined up with any physical evidence. Now, I am aware of the CSI effect, and what basically means is that everyone expects some form of forensic evidence in every case, and that's just not always going to be possible, but it sure was not present here. So how did he get convicted? Well, most of it was because the confession was allowed through, and it was denied. The motion to suppress his confession was ultimately denied because the judge didn't seem that any of that behavior he was experiencing, and in my opinion, it's very obvious the way you can see how he looks. He's looking down. He's just giving inconsistent statements, and it just never lines up, and nothing ever connects, ever. I think the first statement should have been his only statement, and they should have never brought him back. But they needed someone to pin a timeline on, and they needed someone to make them a timeline for the prosecution to get his uncle. So, why is this important, you may ask? And why am I covering this case? In my opinion, I believe Brendan is innocent, and that his constant changing of events and giving the police what they wanted to hear is just so heartbreaking to watch. He even says to his mom he was guessing that he would for his homework, and his guessing, without realizing the repercussions, landed him in jail for a rape and murder he didn't commit. A minor intimidated by police and coerced to give them a confession in a timeline of events that was never supported made him a murderer. And now, his whole life has been behind bars. Even his appeals were denied by the courts. This entire case was sad and could have been prevented had he A, not been able to waive his Miranda rights as a minor, and B, had a bubble defender who actually gave a shit about his client. While I really think some defendants are wrongfully convicted, this one made that exception. A teenager lost his ability to have an actual life and has spent it in jail. This should have never happened, and this time, the jury got it wrong. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this case, and don't forget to leave a like and a subscribe for more true crime content. I will see you all again in the Barretts very soon. Goodbye!